What's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and today I am back with another video. For this time, we're going to go through 75 years of NBA history and find the 25 most iconic photos. And as you guys know, NBA history, it is rich and full of all-time great moments. But for this video, I narrowed it down to 25. Now without wasting more time, let's get into the video and look at the 25 most iconic photos in NBA history. First up, we have an iconic picture of Muggsy Bogues, who's 5'3", and Manute, who's an astounding 7'7". Now this right here is a mythical photo of an NBA giant, as well as an NBA midget. And Manute for NBA history, he quite literally is a myth. His wingspan, his legs, everything about him was larger than life, and the way he played basketball was simply amazing. And at his peak, he's one of the best, if not the best, shot blockers the game had ever seen. Now Muggsy Bogues, also in his own right, was a very good player at his peak during the early 90s as well as mid-90s. And for a couple years, he was around 9 assists per game at the mere size of 5'3". Now all that is pretty great. What makes it even better is that these two guys played on the Washington Bullets as teammates. I guarantee you we'll never see a duo like this in NBA history. A 7'7" center and a 5'3" point guard. Now next up, we have Dr. J. Julius Erving, and Dr. J's most iconic photo is a dunk versus the Denver Nuggets. And this dunk isn't really special for any reason. It wasn't a game winner, it wasn't a windmill, it wasn't even a 360. But just looking at this photo, it's iconic, and it's a great visual of the late 70s basketball. The colors, the uniforms, the socks, everything about it just screams NBA history in the late 1970s. And I think what makes it even better, you have Dr. J's fro, his wingspan, and his legs, which are flying through the air for an incredible one-handed slam. Now next up, we have LeBron James and his chalk toss from his first stint in Cleveland. And if you guys do remember early on LeBron, this is a staple of his pregame routine. And whenever I see this photo, I think of young LeBron at his athletic peak. In the mid-2000s, that was a pretty great time for the NBA. You had LeBron entering his prime, you had Kobe and Duncan also in their prime, as well as an older Shaq exiting his prime. That right there is 4 of the greatest players of all time, all in one era. And LeBron chalk toss fits right in there among those players as an iconic photo in NBA history. Now looking ahead, next up, we have Derrick Rose and his 2011 MVP. And for me personally, I love this photo, and I'm a big D-Rose fan. And back in 2011, he was the youngest MVP in NBA history at only 22 years old. That is one of these standout accomplishments in NBA history that might not ever happen again. And what makes this picture so great is that in 2011, you got the MVP in front of your home fans in the playoffs. I don't know why they stopped doing this, but back then it was a big moment. To get that award in front of your fans was definitely special. Now next up, we have Shaq and his photo in the 2000 playoffs in Game 7 versus Portland. And in this game, Shaq, he didn't have a really great game. He only had 18 points, and he wasn't usual dominant Shaq. But late in the fourth quarter, LA, in a furious comeback, outscoring Portland by 18 points in the fourth quarter. And the cherry on top of this comeback was a Kobe to Shaq alley-oop that sealed the game and gave LA their first finals appearance in nearly a decade.
Portland has 3 timeouts left. The Lakers have 2. Bryant to Shaq!
And looking ahead, next up, we have a picture of LeBron James and Kobe from the 2016 All-Star Game. In this game for Kobe, this is his last ever All-Star event and his last game versus LeBron James in that atmosphere. And for this photo in particular, it's 2 of the best players of all time, and kind of a passing the torch moment in the sense that Kobe, he was retiring, and it was officially LeBron's league as the lone all-time great NBA superstar. Also in this photo you had Drake, who in my personal opinion, kind of ruined the photo. But still a great photo, and the 2016 All-Star Weekend was one of, if not the best All-Star weekends in NBA history. And next up on our list, we have Damian Lillard and his shot over Paul George from the 2019 playoffs. And this playoff series for Dame is a statement series as he was great throughout. But in Game 5 in Portland, with his team up 3-1, he took full advantage of OKC and their lackluster defense, as in this game, he had 50 points on 51% shooting and made an astounding 10 3-pointers. In the final moments, he had this shot over Paul George.
Chance to send the Thunder home. Lillard, long-range three, and it's good! At the buzzer!
Now next up, we have Jay West and his famous logo picture. And I think for Jay West, he's undoubtedly one of the best guards in NBA history, and even 75 years from now, people will look back and see Jay West as the OG logo and one of the most influential players the game has ever seen. So I think his logo picture is easily a top 25 most iconic picture in NBA history. Now sticking with the old school theme, next up, we have Bill Russell and his 11 rings photo. And of course Bill Russell, he's the ultimate champion, the ultimate leader, and just the ultimate player from the old school NBA. And I feel pretty safe saying, no player in NBA history is ever going to have 11 championship rings like Mr. Russell. And looking at this photo, it says so much about Russell's career, his overall mentality of being a great winner, as well as a great teammate. And for any casual NBA fan, when you think of Bill Russell, you automatically think of 11 championship rings, which once again is remarkable and will never happen again. Now looking ahead, next up, we have another championship photo, that being Kobe from the 0-1 finals. And this photo for many NBA fans, it is iconic and a pretty emotional photo. But for Kobe himself, it was a pretty tough time in his life, as around this time, he had a big falling out with his parents, and I think this photo kind of sums that up in his overall mindset, that winning a championship was great, but internally, he still had some demons he was battling with. So I think for a lot of NBA fans, this photo, it's pretty cool and iconic. There's also a pretty deep story that's kind of dark. Now skipping ahead, next up, we have Kawhi's shot against the Philadelphia 76ers in Game 7. If you guys didn't know, in this game, Kawhi, he had 41 points and a Game 7 buzzer beater, the first of its kind. And watching this photo, looking at the faces, seeing Kawhi, Joel Embiid, some fans and spectators, it just gives the overall angst of that buzzer beater and how it took multiple seconds for it to actually fall. And watching this shot live, I'll never forget it, as there's very few buzzer beaters where it takes multiple bounces for the shot to go in.
Here, if you're Philly.
It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
Now next up, we have another Kobe Bryant photo from the 2010 finals. And the photo I chose is widely known as Kobe's championship celebration when he hopped on the scorer's table and embraced the crowd. And I think looking past the photo of this game was integral to Kobe's legacy, winning his 5th championship and his 2nd Finals MVP and his 2nd ring without Shaq. And this Game 7, I think, was the best Game 7 of the 2010s. Now staying in the NBA Finals, next up, we have Michael Jordan's flu game picture with Scottie Pippen. And I think this photo right here sums up the best duo of the 90s and possibly the best duo of all time. And I think looking at the flu game in depth, it summarized Michael Jordan and his overall will to win. As in this game, he had 38 points, including multiple clutch time baskets in the 4th quarter.
Double team Scottie down low and leaving Michael Jordan. He knocks down this three, gives him the huge lead, and then the total exhaustion on the bench. Michael Jordan sucking air.
And if you want to talk about the greatest injury games, the greatest sick games, this game is always number 1 at the very top. As once again, Jordan, who's battling illness, and so scored 38 points in a pivotal Game 5 in the finals. And if Jordan didn't play that great, the Bulls probably lose the series in 6 or even 7 games. Now once again, we have a Kobe and Jordan photo, this time from 1997. And this right here was their best ever head-to-head duel, as Jordan had 36 points and Kobe had 33. And if you're ever bored on YouTube, just go watch Michael and Jordan vs. Kobe duels. It's some of the best videos you'll ever watch. And during this game in Chicago 97, Jordan and Kobe actually had a brief moment where they talked to each other, and Jordan gave Kobe some tricks of the trade.
Did you impart any wisdom to him throughout the game?
Oh yeah, he asked me one question when we were down, been down at half court, and he wanted to know how, when I turn around on my jump shot, how to lock the defense or how to feel the defense. I told him you should feel the defense with your legs. Once you feel the defense with your legs, you more or less got to feel where the defense is, and you can take advantage of that.
Now next up, we have LeBron James and his Game 7 block on Andre Iguodala. And looking at the NBA Finals and basketball overall, this is the greatest defensive play possibly in all of sports history, as LeBron sprinted from full court, took 2 big strides, and met Iguodala at the rim. This play was all effort, all hustle, and it was all heart for Cleveland to win their first championship. And it's pretty fitting LeBron James, a great offensive player, his most iconic play and moment is actually a block on the defensive end with his patented chase down block.
Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James! LeBron James with the rejection.
And looking at our next moment, it also involves this Game 7. And one of the big momentum swings was Kyrie Irving's shot over Steph Curry. For Cleveland history, this is the most important shot for the Cavaliers and gave Cleveland a big edge to win this game.
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown! And the Cavaliers by 3.
Now speaking of daggers win championships, next up we have Ray Allen's shot in the 2013 Finals. I think this shot right here is the greatest shot in NBA history. It was clutch, it was timely, and above all else, it was completely unpredictable and spontaneous, as the Heat's own fans in Miami left the arena prematurely. And if you look very closely, you can see some staff members with a gold yellow rope, the championship celebration for the Spurs.
James catches, puts up a 3. Won't go. Rebound Bogues. Back out to Allen. His three-pointer. Bang! Tie game with 5 seconds remaining.
Now next up, we have Michael Jordan's free throw line dunk in the '88 dunk contest, possibly the greatest dunk contest of all time. As in the final round, MJ needed a 49 to win the contest against fellow great dunker Dominique Wilkins. And what MJ gave us was an iconic photo that was a pose on a free throw line dunk.
And he took off further inside than he did the last time, but it's still a spectacular dunk.
And I think for most NBA fans we all know, this dunk wasn't the best dunk of all time, but visually the photo is remarkable. Looking at all the fans, the pose, the ball placement, it's all perfect and defines the Air Jordan basketball brand, which has lived on past Jordan's playing career. Now next up, we have another great 90s shooting guard, that being Reggie Miller. And Reggie's big-time rival in the 90s was the New York Knicks, and his best game versus New York came in 1994 in Game 5. In this game, Reggie had 39 points, including 6 threes, and in the fourth quarter, he had 25 points.
Miller open again. His foot on the line. That's a 2-pointer. And Reggie Miller in an animated discussion with Spike Lee.
And throughout the entire fourth quarter, he was trash-talking Spike Lee and gave him the infamous choke sign as he beat the Knicks down in the fourth quarter. And for Reggie's career, this wasn't his best series of all time, but this game and this moment definitely stands out in NBA history as an iconic photo that defines the 90s and the Knicks and Pacers rivalry. And once again, staying in the 90s, we have the 92 Dream Team picture of Jordan, Bird, and Magic. And this right here is a personal favorite of mine, as you have 3 players who changed the NBA forever, with Bird and Magic saving it in the 80s, and Jordan taking it new heights in the 1990s. And for these 3 guys to come together and be a part of the greatest team of all time, it's truly special and an iconic picture in NBA history. And kind of going hand in hand with that, next up, we have the Bird Magic picture where they're boxing each other out. And looking at this picture, you get the greatest individual rivalry, that being Bird versus Magic, and the greatest team rivalry, that being Boston versus LA, Celtics versus Lakers. And once again, Magic and Bird, they saved the NBA in the 80s, and their rivalry defines NBA history, the golden age of basketball. Now moving on, next up, we have Allen Iverson and his best ever moment from the 01 Finals. As in this game, AI had 48 points and route to a Philadelphia victory over the undefeated Lakers, who hadn't lost a game in over a month and a half. And when you speak of Allen Iverson, you have to think of this picture of the step over on Tyronn Lue, one of the best trash-talking, just pure disrespect moments of all time.
Iverson. Yes.
How about that?
And steps over Tyronn Lue.
7 straight points by Iverson. Looked like he was dead in the water.
Now getting into the top 3, at number 3, we have the LeBron James and D Wade alley-oop versus the Milwaukee Bucks. And in fact, it wasn't even an alley-oop, but the overall visual, the picture, D Wade's arms, LeBron's dunk, it's visually amazing and just a great overall picture. And when you speak of the 2010s, the Big Three Heat, you have to look to this photo, and the most iconic photo from that run.
Jennings for three. Manute got a touch, but it goes to Wade. He has Arroyo in front. Follows on a bounce to James.
If you miss.
Now looking at number 2, we have Wilt Chamberlain's picture for his 100-point game versus the New York Knicks. In this game for Wilt, he broke numerous records and rewrote NBA history. And to this day, no player has even scored 90 points in a single game. And I think what makes it even more special is that Wilt Chamberlain, in his own right, is kind of a myth. And this game in particular was not even televised or on TV. So for Wilt's 100-point game, we have no visuals, we only have audio, which makes this picture even more iconic and more special. And even to this day, players, when they big-time scoring game, they imitate Wilt's pose of scoring 100 points. And I think in 100 years, Wilt's record will still stand as the most points ever scored in an NBA game. Now finally at the number 1 spot, for the most iconic photo in NBA history, we have Michael Jordan's shot in Game 6 of the '98 Finals versus the Jazz. In this game, Jordan had 45 points, and the fourth quarter exploded for 16. And the final 45 seconds of this game is an absolute masterclass performance of clutch time play, as Jordan has multiple buckets, the steal on Malone, and of course the shot on Russell to seal the championship.
In the play, look where Hornacek is setting the screen. Michael never clears, so Malone doesn't see him. He comes from the blind side and strips him.
17 seconds from Game 7 or from championship number 6. Jordan, open, Chicago with the lead.
And if you really zoom in on the photo, you can see the anxiety in the fans' faces, not only for the Jazz, but also a couple of Bulls fans. And the one face you have to look to, this kid right behind the basket who's holding up 6 fingers for Jordan's 6 championships with 6.6 seconds on the clock. The odds of that happening at the same moment, it's pretty crazy and makes this picture even that more special. And that's why for my list, I have this photo as the most iconic photo in NBA history. So that right there is the end of the video and the end of my list for the 25 most iconic photos in NBA history. As always, thank you guys for watching, hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time.